Thanks for checking in on the State of Basketball Podcast, Episode 3. I'm Adam Miller, and I'm here with Jaron Wilt each and every week. We are going to be bringing you the news and notes on all 11 Division I schools in the state of Indiana because in 49 states,
it's just basketball.
Jaron, today, before we get into the power rankings, I have a question for you. All right.
Okay.
PFW currently has the second longest win streak in college basketball.
Do they really?
Yep, they're tied for the second longest. So they're 5-0 right now. So a lot of teams just have not played 5 games is what it is. So
does that include carryover from last year?
Yes.
Okay.
So who were they then behind? Who has a longer winning streak than they do?
I got to imagine UConn.
Because they haven't lost. They're undefeated and they won 6 games in a row. Yes. So they have the longest win streak. There are 6 other teams who are also 5-0 this season. Can you name one of them?
I saw it earlier. I didn't even look at the question, but I was looking at KenPom at Houston. Right?
Houston's one.
Houston. Yep. 5-0 though.
I'll give you one. UConn is also 5-0 this year. So
I couldn't remember how many games they had played.
They are as of their win today, they are 5-0. So
I couldn't remember if today was their 4th game or their 5th game.
So their current win streak is 11.
Not too shabby.
There's a Big Ten team in there. Not one you would expect. Projected to finish in the bottom 3-4 of the Big Ten.
State?
Nope.
Maryland.
Nebraska.
Maryland's
dropped 2 or 3 games this year.
After I said that, I was like, I'm an idiot.
Yeah. So the 6 teams are PFW, Houston, Nebraska, Portland State, Connecticut, Miami, and Mississippi State.
Okay. I should have expected Miami, but I wasn't 100% sure of how many games they played this season.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of teams that you would expect to be there. They just simply haven't played 5 games yet. Right. You got a lot of teams in
like
M2s
Purdue
and
crossed
stuff.
My mind.
Right.
They only played
3
or 4.
Yeah. So let's jump into the power rankings.
Yep.
Do you want to jump into that or do you want me to do it? You want me to rattle them off? There's been some changes.
There have been some changes. The top 3, I think they stay the same, right? We didn't make any changes to the top 3.
Same order. It's number 4 when it changes.
I think everything else down changed, right? Like we didn't keep anyone.
Pretty much because there were some unexpected results this week. There were some interesting ones.
Yeah. But I mean, who do we got?
So our power rankings this week, 1 through 11, we've got Purdue still number 1.
Makes sense.
Purdue Fort Wayne right after them. They went undefeated this week.
Makes sense as well.
Yep. Indiana State at 3, Evansville at 4.
They made a big jump.
Yes.
They made a big jump.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that why. IU dropped to 5 after today's game. Number 6 is Notre Dame. 7 is Butler. 8, big drop, is Ball State.
Yeah, that was
not great.
No.
9 is Valpo. 10 is Southern Indiana. And rounding out the top 11 is a new team this week, IUPUI.
Good for Southern Indiana for getting some win and moving up the rankings.
Getting some win. So that's our
getting some win. Yeah.
I was gonna say top 11. That's all 11 teams, 1 through 11. So we've had some changes there. So one of the teams that did change, Jaron, is Ball State. Let's jump into Ball State.
Yeah. So first, they went 1-1 this week.
Yes.
But I would like to point out that they were both they made history a little bit, but they also followed suit with history. So when they made history, this is their first 3-0 start since 1997. So they beat non-D1 Oakland City earlier in the week
to go 3-0.
Where they kind of maintained history. They say with the status quo was they haven't won at Evansville since 1964.
That's insane.
So it's just going into Evansville, playing at the what's now the Ford Center.
Yeah.
They just apparently can't win.
How often do they play there?
I don't remember how many games they have played since then.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's since 1964. I'm not too good at math. That's
a lot of years.
Almost 60 years. So
that's very, very surprising.
And I didn't realize that going into the game. I was high on Ball State.
Yep.
Playing against Evansville. I thought it would be a close game.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Not even remotely.
But I didn't expect it. I didn't know about that kind of losing streak that they had.
Neither did I. And I expected, like you said, it to be competitive, and it just was not at all. It was competitive for the first half, almost the first half.
I'd say a lot of the first half they played well. They kept it close, and I think a lot of that has to do with they shot 71% from three.
Okay.
And 40% from the field in the first half.
Yeah.
The second half, however, they shot 0% from.
That'll do it.
And 20.8% from the field. They did, however, shoot 81% from the line in the second half.
Moral victories.
They were hitting their free throws in the second half, but they couldn't hit anything else, which sucks.
It was kind of deflating for what I thought of Ball State, because I don't know. I just thought that they had more. I just thought they had more there, you know?
Yeah.
Like the game, like right when I started it, I knew it was off to a bad start because Bashir Jihad, first two possessions, turnovers.
Yeah,
and then
had a rough game.
And then I was like, okay, right after that, hits a three. I don't know where we're going. It was just, it was insane.
Yeah, and I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about the Oklahoma City game because that's just almost a 40-point game, and they're an NAIA school. So,
but I did not call this out last week. That was an in-state matchup. They're an NAIA school in Indiana.
I didn't realize where Oakland City was. I thought they were in Michigan.
It's in Oakland City, Indiana, which I didn't know existed.
Didn't know existed either. Yeah. I genuinely thought that they were in.
Yeah,
to be honest with you, but yeah, they did not play well against Evansville. They had, and I've said this multiple times, right? Ball State is going to be really successful in the fast break. Transition and fast break offense is where they're going to be successful. They had 0 fast break points.
And
0.
Yeah. And Evansville was able to turn them over 18 times, turned Ball State over 18 times, which is like what Ball State should be doing to Evansville.
Yeah. And we'll talk about it a little bit more when we talk about Evansville, but Ragland had a game plan and they followed through with that game plan.
Yeah. And I mean, Evansville has just been playing great team basketball, and it worked out. And
I think that's a big reason why they made the big jump that they did in our power rankings, is and why Ball State conversely fell far in our power rankings.
The defense, what did you say? Did you say what the line was for the game to start? What the projection was?
I can pull it up for you.
Okay. Well, you pull that up. Two things that stood out to me was like the defensive pressure that Evansville had on Ball State. They turned over Ball State 18 times, which is huge.
Yeah.
And Mickey Pearson had a donut, 0 points. And Jalen Anderson went 1 for 12. All right, I want you to take a free throw here. Jalen Anderson scored 1 bucket. He ended up with 4 points. He hit 2 free throws, so he had 1 bucket. When did he hit his first bucket in the game? At what point in the game? What time left?
Like 5 minutes left.
In the first or second half?
In the game.
In the game?
Yeah.
10-17 in the second half. So at the 10-17 mark, Jalen Anderson hits his first bucket. Sorry, his only bucket. Like, it was a rough one because he was leading them in scoring, or first or second. I mean, he was.
Yeah, he's one of their leading scorers.
Yeah. So
overall,
like, that was a big deal, in that alone is like enough. But then you had the 18 turnovers and having Mickey Pearson scoring 0, and
Mickey Pearson's, remember, he's a returning starter from last year. He didn't average a whole lot of points last year, and he's one of those guys that said, I need to step up
Yeah.
and play a completely different role. And it just did not pan out. That game, the rest of the season, he's been playing really well.
Yeah.
But against Evansville, it was just a tough thing. And that worries me because Evansville, I think, was the best opponent that they've played so far this season.
Yes.
And going into the MAC.
No, actually, Old Dominion. Ball State beat Old Dominion this year, ODU, who was 172.
Okay.
So Evansville is sitting at 239 in KenPom.
It's just the Ford Center.
It's cursed.
That's what it is. I'm a firm believer in that. It's the reason they lost because they played in the Ford Center. Go to Worthen Arena.
It's different.
Ball State by 1 million.
Well,
they were. I checked it. Ball State were 3-point favorites.
Okay, so they were 3-point favorites, and going into the game, Ball State was 216 in KenPom. If you don't know how KenPom works, basically, it's a predictive matrix, and it's an algorithm, and it takes into if you do better than your expectations, you're going to move up in your ranking for your offense and defense. So you're going to move up if you exceed expectations. You're going to move down if you don't. If you are, play worse.
Yep.
They were a 3-point favorite. They lost by 24. They lost by 24. KenPom moved them down from 216 to 261. 262, but then there was some movement. They moved it up to 261. That's insane.
That's a huge drop.
Yeah. So Ball State, we had to drop you. There's nothing that we can do about that. I think that
if you're watching on YouTube, I do have a Ball State Athletics Cup, so
I think that
still love you, but
maybe the team needed it. Sometimes you just got to get punched in the mouth, and
I think Michael Lewis is going to use that as motivation to drive those guys.
Absolutely,
we'll see how the next week out for him.
Team that went up in our power rankings. Partly because of Ball State losing, but
that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
That's
regardless. There was some movement, and Butler went up in our rankings, but they did go down in KenPom. So Butler's sitting at 76 in KenPom. They went down this week. They went 1-1. Mm-hmm. They had an expected loss to Michigan State, but then they also had an expected win to get over East Tennessee State.
Can't be mad about that. Yeah, and we said it on last week's episode. Butler has to rebound better.
If they're going to play that many guards, they've got to be getting a lot of guard rebounds.
We acknowledged it. And going into that game, Thad Matta himself said, this is a game we need to rebound.
He must have tuned in.
Fan of the show. You heard it here first.
Cite your sources, Thad. Come on.
They did. They out-rebounded ETSU. Not by a lot. I think they out-rebounded them by 2.
Yeah. But they should out-rebound ETSU.
They did get out-rebounded by Michigan State, but I think that's a little bit to be expected. Yes. Michigan State's a much more experienced team.
Yeah. They're Michigan State, they've had a weird season already, but they return a lot of people, and they've got great new pieces. So it's an old team that you would expect to. Yeah. It's a time. At the end of the day, it's a Time-Izzo team. They should be out rebounding.
Absolutely.
Going into that game against Michigan State, it had to have changed after they played Michigan State. But before they played them, they had the best field goal defense in the country. So opponents were shooting 30.6 from the field before the Michigan State game. The opponents that they played, which is the best. Do not know where that stat stands now, but you got to figure it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That after their first week, they were leading the country.
I'm not mad about it.
Defense.
I will say. So one thing that a big takeaway I had from those 2 games is Telfort struggled.
Yes.
Against ETSU, he could not get going. Silly times he'd drive to the basket. Didn't even pick up a foul or didn't get fouled, but just couldn't get the ball to fall.
Yeah.
And he turned it around against Michigan State. Obviously it didn't help. They didn't win, but I think that's something that I like to see from players is if you have a bad game, how do you bounce back?
Yeah.
Regardless of the team outcome, I think that's going to go a long way throughout the season.
Yeah.
So often you see guys let's look at Tamar Bates at Missouri, for example. Right. When he has a bad game, it typically kind of compounds.
Yeah, it snowballs.
Snowballs is a good way to put it. And you lose that confidence But then you have a great game or a much better game.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, it's not gonna have that snowball effect. It's, consistency might not be there necessarily.
Yeah.
But I think it goes towards finding that consistency. If Butler's players can find that consistency,
that next shot mentality or that next game mentality,
I think that it's going to help
especially
them a lot.
We say it every show, but they play in the Big East. They got to be able to take, they got to be able to take an ass whooping and then go out in the next game and compete.
Yeah, absolutely.
Josh Alexander in the East Tennessee State game had 13 points, 4 assists, and the team shot 35% from 3. So shooting had been but he played really well. I'm still a really big fan of his. I think he's going to do really well under Thad. I think part of them losing to Michigan State was just the fact that Michigan State shot 35% and they made 7 threes. So they played how they should play.
Yeah.
If you get the Michigan State team that, shoots 1 for 20, you might win that game.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. You might win that game, or you're at least in the game. It takes out an
entire part of their offense.
Yeah. So they're just unfortunate that they played Michigan State at that time. But all in all,
one thing before we wrap up, I'm really excited to talk about Evansville.
Okay.
But you mentioned someone that you still really like, Josh Alexander.
Yep.
Something that I still really like. And I look at it after almost every game for every team is points off turnovers, transition offense, fast break offense.
Okay.
Butler was consistent this week. They had 12 points from 10 turnovers against Michigan State. Not bad.
No.
Converting, let's say every turnover is 2 points.
Right.
So they converted on over half of those turnovers. They had 36 points off of the 19 turnovers against ETSU. So that's
huge.
Almost all of them.
Yeah.
So that's something that I really pay a lot of attention to, because I'm a big transition offense guy.
And I think that's how they want to play.
Especially if you got 4 guards playing,
you got to be able to run and you can beat everyone down the floor. So do it.
Right. Absolutely. But Evansville
2-0. Again,
yeah, they're
rolling, dude.
They're rolling. They had a win over SEMO, which to me was a big win, and then they had that win over Ball State. They made a big jump in KenPom this week.
They went up 82 spots. They're out of the 300s. They're into the mid 200s now. Number 240 in KenPom. Beautiful.
Hell yeah.
SEMO won the OVC last year, and they made the NCAA tournament. So that SEMO team, I don't know what pieces they brought back or not, but realistically, it's probably a pretty good team.
Yeah, Evansville, they were 2-point dogs to SEMO. They were 3-point dogs to BSU. So they said, screw the spread.
Yeah.
We're going to win.
Free money, dog. Said free money.
Absolutely. We're not a betting show. Keep that in mind if you're that's what you're into.
Evansville, Ben Humrickhouse, he was our Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week last week, and I thought I was going to have to give it to him back to back. I considered giving it to him because just how he came out, but they had someone score their 1,000th point this week.
Kenny Strawbridge, the guy I pointed out in our season preview.
Yep, to watch out for.
Thought it might happen week 1. He only played 1 game that week. I think he was sick for their second game.
Yes.
But so it took a little longer than expected. But anytime you hit 1,000,
it's huge.
That's a huge career achievement for sure. He had 13 in that game, so it's not like he hit 1 bucket and then got to 1,000. It's still played. Scoring double digits.
Yeah,
that was against Ball State.
I considered him for. I guess I could have said this, but I considered him for Jimmy Chitwood, but I wasn't there for the other 980 points. I don't want to jump in at number 1,000 and be like, I was your dog all alone.
Yeah, I
wasn't in there shooting in the gym with him. But really great. In the SEMO game, both teams started 0 for 9 from 3, so that was pretty rough. But sorry, I'm coughing on something. But they exceeded expectations in the first game, or in the game against Ball State. They were up 3 or down. They were up 3, I think, at half, and then they just came out and just jumped down Ball State's throat and just stomped them.
Yeah, I mean, I even specifically wrote in my notes, whatever Ragland said at halftime worked.
He probably just pulled up the record books and said, listen, you're going to be the first team to lose to Ball State here since the 60s.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's just what you like to see all around.
But the other thing that jumped out to me was when they played Ball State, the team had 18 assists. And they just play really good team basketball.
Yeah.
And every starter had at least one assist. So that's huge. I think multiple of them had like 4, one had 5. But one for everybody is perfect. And another thing that I appreciate about Hummerkaus is that he's actually a transfer up. He's from Huntington, and he transferred to Evansville, and he's playing like he belongs, like he should have been here all along. So, great week for Evansville. You moved up on our power rankings, moved up to spot number 4, which is ahead of our next team, Jaron. And number 5 in the power rankings, we have Indiana. Moved down 1 spot. Not terrible, but they did move down 1 spot behind Evansville.
Yep.
What they do this week.
So it went 1-1. And this was expected, right? Everyone in the world expect, and other than some crazy fans.
Anyone who has sense. Anyone who knows ball.
Exactly. Anyone who knows ball would have known that they were expected to go in this week. They won against Wright State. It was a tough game to watch.
Yeah.
They lost to UConn. They were, depending on who you ask,
like 12, 13-point dogs.
Yes. I think the consensus was anywhere between 11 and 13, other than Torvik, who had them at like 5.9.
Yeah.
But I can't wrap my head around that. I'm not mad about it because, hey, if we're single digit dogs to this team, like, it's UConn.
Yeah.
Right?
They're the defending national champions. Defending
national champions. They play ball well.
Yeah.
But against Wright State, I thought the second unit looked better than it had in the previous games. It's not saying much.
The thing that I think really hurts them is he puts out the second unit.
It's like a hockey line shift.
Yeah. Like he's out there. You've got all your bench people at once. You don't have anyone like leave Mbako out there, and like put him out there with,
let him get some run,
like, because he's then the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
he's
been struggling on defense, but like he's been the guy.
He did pick up 3 fouls in the first half.
Yeah.
So
and he's only scoring from the free throw line, basically. True. I thought he was going to get going in the early game of Wright State because he hit that 3 early and then just kind of nothing.
I went 1 for 7.
He's got a long way to come on defense to be able to play more minutes.
Yeah, and I think that someone mentioned it. It might have been Robbie Hummel. Pretty sure Hummel called the Wright State game.
Okay. No, it was anyway.
I think it was Bardo.
Yes.
It was whoever Bardo was paired with.
Mm-hmm.
But they said that Mac is, when he's playing defense, you can see in his eyes those gears are turning. Like, okay, where do I need to go? Where do I need to be? And I think that is kind of something that's holding them back. Is it's the defense isn't quite as instinctive to him as others. And when you're thinking, is plays happen so fast,
right?
That for those synapses, is that the right word? To fire.
Okay.
By the time they fire, the ball's gone. The play's moved on. It's
gotta be all muscle memory,
right?
By that point, because even we saw it when Mike Woodson came in. He plays just a different style of defense than most college coaches. He plays more NBA style defense, and like even the team that played for him last year was like struggling to pick it up still. Yeah. And so I think he'll come along. He's a really talented player. I think he's going to come along, but it's going to take some time. So about the Wright State game, Ware looks great. He looked incredible, and he's
who has motor issues.
Yeah, he's out there just trying to will this team. And it's nice because a team that you would think be really be missing Trace Jackson Davis.
Yeah.
Ware is not better than Trace Jackson Davis, and he's not a better asset for the team, but he can be better in areas.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
I think that he is great to have down there. But the other thing, I don't remember his name, but the dude who was out, their leading scorer for Wright State was out, hurt, and that I knew it as soon as that happened. I was like, some random dude is going to go off, because that's what always happens against Indiana. And Andrew Wellage, guy from Indiana, he had 0 points this season
going into the game.
Yeah, 0 points, and he popped for 25 and had 7 threes.
Yep.
I mean,
yep.
Is it just because he's from Indiana and he was like, I'm in Assembly Hall, this is like, I'm home.
This is the Mecca.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
his most buckets in a game before this in his career was 6. He made 6 buckets in the game and he hit 7 threes.
Yeah.
It's insane.
He played the game of his life. And
unfortunately, they still lost. But
yeah,
fortunately for Indiana,
I'm not mad about it. I will say there's one key moment that I want to talk about from that game. It's not like it's such a minor moment, right? It was just something that I noticed and I loved everything about it. So we know IU plays, they're dominant in the paint. I mean, they had 56 points in the paint against Wright State.
Mm-hmm.
They've got obviously 2 big men and Malik and Ware, who are just they're gonna play buddy ball, score in the paint.
Yeah.
Then you've got Trey Galloway and X, who are just gonna drive to the basket. I want to talk a little bit about Trey as well, but there's one moment, obviously X, primary ball handler, and in the offense, there's one moment, and Mike Woodson did not like it, but X was at the top of the key, and he looked at Ware, and he just like signaled to him. He's like, "Get the F out of the way, like move." Ware stepped just outside of the paint. X drove to the basket and got the point. But a timeout was called shortly after that, and Woodson yelled into him. I think his exact words were, "Shoot the effing ball."
Yep. You could read his lips.
It was not hard to read his lips because Xavier Johnson had probably 8 feet of space from the defender, wide open, top of the key, straight on, and hit the 3.
Yeah.
But he didn't. Again, I'm not mad about it.
Yeah.
We got points on the board.
They need to shoot more threes.
And
they even have like 3 times. Their opponents have like 3 times more threes attempted.
Yeah.
And made. It's insane.
Yeah.
They won the game. Now, UConn is the one that we need to talk about, because we talked about this in our preview for the season. Said if you get smoked by UConn, it's not the end of the world.
Right. Absolutely. And I still don't think it is.
It was competitive first half. You think about this. They had Xavier Johnson on the bench with 2 fouls
for most of the first half.
For the first 10 minutes. I mean, he played the first 2 minutes, goes out with 2 fouls, comes back in.
He only played minute 14 10. Total minutes the entire game.
Because he played 11 in the second half and 3 in the first half.
Yeah.
Because he played 3 minutes. He came in for that 3rd minute and immediately drew a 3rd foul. And it was like, okay, you're down 7 at halftime to them. That's a success. And then you lose by 20. You had Malik Renew, your leading scorer, who was getting everything he wanted, just bodying Caravan.
Fouled out.
Xavier Johnson can barely play. Gabe Cupps got lost in the moment. It was just a tough game.
Not mad about that though.
No,
you're a true freshman going into the Garden.
Yeah, playing against the national champions. Yeah. So I'm not. And he shouldn't have. He shouldn't have had to play that many minutes.
Right.
But
I will say that it's a different game if IU doesn't run into foul trouble. I have opinions. I'm convinced that the refs that refed the Empire Classic, so both games today, that they have contract incentives for them to call fouls, because in the Louisville, Texas game, there were
I think it's like a quota.
Gotta be, because there were 42 total fouls in the IU UConn game, which is absurd for 2 teams of UConn's caliber for them to have 21 fouls. IU typically, you'd say, of their caliber. And then Texas Louisville, they had, I don't remember the exact foul numbers, but Louisville had 2 guys foul out.
Yeah.
Like that's 10 fouls in itself. So you know that it's bad.
It was
When
absurd.
even the broadcasters are pointing out fouls and saying those are ticky tack. But
Well, and even the thing is, as many fouls were called, like Ware didn't hit a 2 tonight.
True.
He didn't hit a 2.
true.
And he's playing he's playing against one of the best bigs, and he did a great job at guarding Klingon. Klingon could not get going. I don't remember how many points he finished with. Maybe I don't even know if he hit double. He might have hit double digits.
I think
because
he had 8, maybe.
let me find it out. Let me find out for you. But Ware played him really well. Ware didn't hit a 2 though, and I mean they were just clobbering him.
Yeah, they were getting. I mean, every screen that UConn ran. And I started pointing them out to my family that I was watching it with.
Yeah.
Like they'd hip check or leg check to like bump into the IU defender that's they're setting the screen against. But it's
and Ware doesn't go 0 for 8 from 2 unless he's getting hacked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's
And I mean, we can sit here all day and complain about refs. But there's a couple.
Klingon had 7.
Okay.
And he went 1 for 3. So, I mean, if you're looking at a guy who's playing another 7-footer in Ware's playing another 7-footer in Klingon, and Klingon was expected to be amazing because he was amazing last year for the national championship team, backing up Sonogo. You're looking at Ware and saying, you didn't hit a 2. You hit 2 threes, so you shot 50% from 3. You showed everyone that you can hit the 3 ball, and you held Klingon to 7 points. Not what you would expect in the, not hitting a 2, but still a good performance.
Well, I think
considered.
that just, we've said it multiple times that he's a potential lottery pick.
Yeah.
And I think in a draft like this, where there's not a lot of big men, that was a big game for both Klingon and Ware.
Yeah.
They didn't score a lot, but on the defensive side,
it's like they were playing each other for the draft spot.
Right, exactly. But so there's a couple things that I want to point out. So one, Gunn really impressed me defensively.
Yeah.
He didn't quite get all of his shots to fall. He had 7 points, I think.
Hasn't hit a 3 yet this year.
Hasn't hit a 3. I think he's 3 for like 30 in his collegiate career.
3 for like 27, I think I saw.
Something like that, yeah. And if he can get his shots to fall, one, he's going to get a lot of run.
Yes.
I think he had 4 or 5 steals today. So his hands on defense, incredible. And he works hard on defense since last year. Like it's just something that he's done. I think he's just trying to find ways for him to see minutes. And I think doing that is going to help him. I talk about this a lot. People are saying that IU, that their senior leaders need to step up.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily agree entirely.
Someone has to.
Well, right. Someone has to. Yeah. But I mean, I saw it today, and I was even texting you about it. Xavier Johnson. He didn't play a lot of minutes.
It was just a very emotional game for him.
It was a very emotional game. But there was one moment where it was like, okay, Xavier Johnson is a leader on that court.
Yeah.
Malik went 1-on-2 with 2 UConn defenders. One of them fell under him, so it tripped him. And he ran into Klingon. It was just a giant, a mammoth of a man. And I don't believe Malik got the basket. He got fouled, though, and talked his shit a little bit to Klingon. He was one, like, if I didn't get tripped, I'm yamming on you type thing. But also, he was mad about the way that he was guarded in that play. And Xavier Johnson, out of nowhere, runs up to him, puts his hand over his mouth, pulls him away.
Yeah.
And I think that's, for anyone saying that the senior leaders are stepping up, I think look at moments like that of like, there's always so much you can do in a game outside of scoring,
right?
To make that difference. And when he had a low impact scoring game, he really was just non-existent because he didn't play.
Yeah.
Like those are moments you need to look at and really think about. It's like, okay, he wasn't on the court a lot, but when he was on the court, it did see that leadership that you're going to have from a guy like Xavier Johnson.
The thing that I think that I want to see from them coming up is anyone who's not a big doing anything.
Yep.
They got to get something out there.
And I think this is the last thing that I want to say about that is last year we knew Trey Galloway was going to have to be the guy this year. He was going to have to step up. He played really well when he became a starter last year after Xavier Johnson got hurt.
Yeah.
And I think, and I've noticed this in bits and pieces. He had 11 in the first half against Wright State.
Mm-hmm.
He had double digits tonight, I believe.
Oh, yeah.
He might have had 10 or 12. But
he had 10.
I think that he's playing under a lot of pressure. He's not a senior, technically.
He's not in his last year.
Yeah, but I've noticed it a little bit. He's not shooting threes like he was last year. Not that he's not making them in general. It's just he's not shooting them.
Yeah.
And I think that
he didn't shoot much last year, but you would think that with his percentage, he would shoot more.
I think that he's playing under a lot of pressure, knowing that he has to be that 2 or 3.
Yeah.
In terms of scoring leader. And I think that that's a lot of pressure that maybe he wasn't ready for. And I think that throughout the course of the season, this team's going to get a lot better. We've already gotten so much better with each game.
Mm-hmm.
Whether 20 points, the Hoosiers are better than that.
Yeah.
They're better than 20 point.
I mean, look at it last year. They lost by 24-25 to Kansas and then ended up being a 4 seed. I mean, just give this team time.
Exactly.
They did shoot 71%, 20 of 28 from the line, which is good. Terrible from the 3. Ware and Galloway were the only ones to hit any.
Yep. And
shot 23%, but they shot 28 free throws and UConn shot 25, and they probably each could have shot 40 because of the physicality of this game. But let's move on. We've talked too long about this.
Yeah.
Let's go down to Indiana State. They played one game this week because I think they're going down to, they're playing in like the Big Dogs something.
Yeah, they've got a turn not tournament, but
an MTE is what they call them now. The
Yeah.
Big Dogs Classic out in Vegas.
Yep.
So they've got they only played one game this week, and it was a slaughter. They played IUPUI, who part of the reason why IUPUI moved down so much is they got beat by almost 40-39. Yeah. Robbie Avila was out last week. He didn't play at all last week. I think he was sick.
So yeah.
And he came back, had 16 points and 5 assists, and Swope had 16 points and 5 steals.
In only 20 minutes.
Yeah.
So mind you, he only played a half.
And this is a guy who was, fourth all-time scoring for freshmen or something for Indiana State.
I think so.
He's an all-conference preseason guy. I mean, he and Swope are the guys, and they showed that.
Yeah, I mean, Swope can shoot the shit out of them. He had 16. Said,
yeah, he's the reason why they were in the game.
4 for 6 from 3.
Yeah, he was the reason why they were in the game in the first half. For the first 30 minutes against Alabama.
Absolutely.
But
absolutely,
Jason Kent had a double-double. 11 and 10. They shot 60% from the field and 43% from 3.
Those are good numbers. Those are pretty good numbers.
Phenomenal. Phenomenal.
I don't want to gas them up too much, but yeah, I will say they did have 21 fouls, but nobody had more than 3.
Yeah.
So they're playing
playing their deep bench.
Yeah, they're spreading those fouls out, which you like to see, because anytime a guy fouls out, it's going to change the entire trajectory of a game.
Yeah.
Even when a guy gets 4 fouls, it changes the trajectory of a game.
Yeah. One thing that I think is important. I can't get this armrest right. One thing that I think is important is they played great. They again played great team basketball. They had 28 assists, and a common trend for their opponent IUPUI is they only had 6. That's not great. So, no. I mean, there's not really much to say. They had one game and they just absolutely jumped down their throats immediately and blew them out. No contest.
Conversely, they went 1-0 this.
Woohoo!
IUPUI 0-4.
Goodness, man.
Which 4 games in a week is a lot, but they did play in an invitational. They had 3 games back to back to back.
They played Elon, Winthrop, and Holy Cross 3 days in a row. Yeah. And the third day was a quick turnaround. So they played like late in the afternoon, and then they played
at noon
today. Yeah. So that's tough.
It is tough. I will say they didn't hit a single 3 against against Indiana State.
Yeah, 0 for 13.
14 turnovers. Counter is really the only guy that they got. I think that if he's not on. I think today was his first game with in single digits.
Well, they had in the second game sorry. You said who? I missed it.
Counter.
Yeah. Counter was good. Blocker was their leading scorer in the second game and was trying to keep them in it. But, he's been playing well defensively, Blocker has.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just a rough go.
Yeah.
Who was their leading scorer today? It was Monroe.
I didn't even write it down. But so against
Bryce
Elon,
Monroe.
I will say, I think Elon is probably the best game that they played this week.
Mm-hmm.
All things considered, they were consistent in both halves when it comes to scoring. They had 36 points each half, which not a lot of points comparatively to some teams who might drop in a first half or in a half in general. And I mean, speaking of 50 and a half, they took a 36-36 lead at the halftime.
36-30. What?
36-36 was the halftime score against Elon.
Okay. So confused. You said 36-36 lead. That's
sorry,
a tie.
Sorry.
Okay. So they were tied at half.
They gave up 50 points in the second half to Elon. So IUP wise, offensively consistent.
Yeah.
But that defense just kind of fell apart, and that's inevitably lost to that's inevitably what led to the loss.
Well, Elon in the first game, I think that was the one where they had the same number of field goal attempts, but Elon made less twos, but they made 10 more threes than IUPUI and made 7 more free throws and attempted 17 more free throws than IUPUI even did.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the game right there.
That was Winthrop.
No, that was IUPUI. That was Elon.
Winthrop
was similar too.
Yeah, Winthrop is.
Winthrop, when they played Winthrop, they went 3 of 17 from 3, but Winthrop went 7 of 18.
Yeah, and at the free throw line, Winthrop was 23 for 34.
Yeah, and IUPUI was 12 of 13. Yeah. So the game was they were fouling too much and they were giving up too many threes, and that was both games.
And speaking of fouling, Counter picked up another technical. I think he's got a technical. He's got like 2 or 3 technicals at least this season.
Yeah.
Which he's a vocal leader, but homie's gonna have to tone it back a little bit. I think like you can't be picking up a tech in every game. You can.
I don't know, man. Send a message.
There's no rules against it per se.
Yeah.
But just don't let it go too far to where you get disqualified. 2 techs is a disqualification. Is that right?
I don't know. Probably. That's how it works for coaches.
Right.
I would imagine.
But those are just things that I think that they
in the 3 games that they played in this MTE, and forgive me, I do not remember the name of the MTE that they played in.
I think it was the Winthrop Invitational.
Yes, it was the Winthrop Invitational. 3 games in 3 days is really tough.
Absolutely, for any team.
But it was like the team they were playing would get out to like a 12-point lead. Mm-hmm. IUPUI would claw it back to like 4, and then it would balloon back out to like 12, and it just kept happening. And then they just couldn't keep up. But the teams they played, Elon's 300th, Winthrop's 149th, and Holy Cross is 331. So on paper, they're supposed to lose all of those games except Elon. But they went 0-3. It was a rough one for them.
They did beat at a betting show. They did beat the spread against Winthrop. They were
they lost by 13.
Yep, they lost by 13. The spread was
there you go.
Free money.
All right. So I mean, one thing that they were talking about when IUPUI was playing was that their coach Matt Crenshaw was saying that when you play in exhibition games and stuff, everyone wants to see man defense. Mm-hmm. So everyone wants to see man defense, but IUPUI doesn't run a lot of man defense when they play. They run a lot of 2-3. They run a lot of matchup zone.
Yep.
And he was saying that like it's a bit of a struggle for the team to get back in the rhythm of the zone and playing their defense that is, different than what most people play.
Yeah.
And so, that can be part of it is they're trying to get back away from that man defense and get into their regular defense. So I think once that picks up later in the season, they should see some improvements.
Let's talk a little bit about Notre Dame.
wildly different 2 games that they played in MTE.
I will say, my first observation against Auburn, they suck.
Yeah.
But I don't think that's necessarily the case. I will say
Auburn's really good.
Auburn's really good. Notre Dame played with a lot of defensive intensity. I think that's the reason they were still in the game at half.
Yeah.
See, the second half was a whole different story. So a tale of 2 halves. Their switching looked really good. Like it just, and any point in time when they would switch in that first half, it was just perfect. You almost didn't even realize that there was a switch.
Yeah.
Because of how seamless, how smooth, how effective it was.
Yeah, they just jumped right in there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, credit to the team because they were in it in the first half. I don't remember what it was at halftime. But they were down 6 at the end of the first half. They were down 6. So they went on that run to like end the half, and they had all the momentum. And you're like, okay. They might be doing something. Braden Shrewsbury was playing well.
And when that happened, it half ended after Marcus Burton made a good play to cut the deficit down to 6.
Yeah.
And a little ironic moment was Micah Shrewsbury. This is how you know that he loves his players, as he had a true like proud dad moment with Burton. He the way he patted him on the shoulder, tapped him on the head, you did well, son.
And then his actual son was right next to him, like, what about me?
Yeah,
I hit a couple threes.
But I think to me that was a moment. We all know that Micah Shrewsbury loves it. He has real passion for the game, but also passion for it. He wants them to be good on the court, but also just good men in general.
He's a player's coach for sure.
Absolutely. And that to me was just that stood out of that specific moment. Okay, this team we're going to pull it together.
Yeah. They've got, you can
and
tell
it's going to be because of this.
Yeah. They have his support, and you can tell that they're his team because they just will fight. Yeah. They'll fight to tell for all 40 minutes. Or all 45 minutes like they had to do in the Oklahoma State game.
True.
They won by 2, and Burton had 20 in that game. He played really well. Braden Shrewsbury did not play great. He didn't even start. No, J.R. Kanezi started in his spot, and it was a second straight double-double, which is really nice. I think that he earned it. I probably feel like it feels weird to start your son just in general, but especially if you got a guy like Kanezi who got his first start and has had a double-double and had 18 points against Auburn and 15 in the Oklahoma State game. I think he should be in that role.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Until proven otherwise.
Yeah.
Another thing that I noticed was, and maybe it was just this week in general with the foul calls, just must be something in the air. Hey Davis, who was almost, other than Burton, has been their secondary scorer most of the season. He fouled out against Oklahoma State. Granted, the foul out wasn't overtime, so that you can't really be too mad about that. You're playing 5 extra minutes.
Yep.
He played 40 minutes with 4 fouls, essentially. Or he only picked up 4 fouls in that 40 minutes.
Right.
But he also had 4 fouls against Auburn. He's averaging just under 4 fouls a game. 3.7. So that concerns me a little bit. But I just think in general, this team's going to go through a lot of adversity this season.
Yeah.
And they're just going to be better for it.
Yeah. And I think the thing that is going to be nice about this team is they're not supposed to be good. So anytime they do win, it's oh crap, we can do this. So expectations. So the expectations aren't high. So they can go above it. They were up by 12, in the midway through the half, and then they went 10 for 12. They went 2 for 12. So that's when Oklahoma State came back. But they had a chance. It was tied at the end. Burton had a chance. He missed his second free throw. So they were only up 2. And then at the end, Notre Dame had a long 3 to win it, 8 feet back from the 3-point line and missed. Sorry. No, Oklahoma State missed their long 3. Yeah. So, I'm impressed with this team. I think Auburn is scary. They're they could be top 10 if they keep playing well.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you are not expected to be in that game. And I think losing by 25 or whatever they lost to, or being close at half is fine.
Right.
Like I said, you're not supposed to be good this year.
Exactly. You want to talk about the Arizona Tip-Off Desert Division Champion?
Oh, yes. Our Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons.
Go Dons. Hashtag Feel the Rumble.
2-0.
2-0 this week. They beat Northern Arizona. Then they beat South Dakota to win their division in the tip-off. So there's two divisions. It's unfortunate. The Desert Division was not televised at all.
Yeah, it stunk.
The other division was on CBS Sports the entire weekend. So
I don't even know who was in the other division.
I don't remember either.
But
there were a couple bigger games, but it was fun. So against NAU, Quentin Morton Robinson, he led all scorers, 7 points, 5 for 8 from 3.
Who was the player of the tournament?
Yeah, he was the tournament MVP for their division.
Yeah, and Rashid Bello ended up making the all tournament team.
Nice,
which is huge.
I missed that, but it was a very back and forth game against NIU. There were 8 lead changes, 9 ties. It was interesting because it was PFW won by 10.
Yeah.
So that's just like, okay, when you see a double digit win, it's just like,
were they up by 20 at one point and the other team came back, or was it tied and they pulled away? Like what happened? Especially when you can't watch.
Yeah, and they did, like I said a little bit ago, they had 27 points off turnover.
Yeah.
Which I think is anytime you have a point off a turnover, that's just going to help extend that lead. But also that's going to set you apart when final outcome. Hurting on those defensive chances.
Yeah. And I mean, there's a lot of fight in this team.
Oh, yeah.
Like they're just going to keep going. In the South Dakota game, they were down in the second half and they just ended up coming back and just clawed back to victory. And they won by 10 or so in that one too.
I believe so.
But they jumped up. So they won by 12 against South Dakota, and winning those 2 games on a neutral site, they went up 96 spots in KenPom. They're in the 200. They're in the top 200 now.
Let's go.
And I think that there's a lot more in store for them. I think that when they come back to Fort Wayne for their next game, I think that there's a good chance that they're going to be 6-0, because I think that next they go to San Francisco.
Yeah, you go to San Francisco.
And then they play Wittenberg here. So, I mean, if they can pull off that San Francisco win, you're going to be sitting real nice.
Absolutely.
Second longest win streak in the country.
Valid. That's considering Houston is playing right now.
Right.
So that could change. Will it? Probably not. I don't expect Houston to win tonight's game. But with the way this season is going, never know. Maybe Dayton pulls it off. Dayton's not a bad team.
Yeah. I think
but that's not to divert from.
I think if you're in the Horizon League, you got to be looking at PFW and being like, crap.
Yeah.
Like they're playing great. They're a young team. Their team isn't like super young in like age, but they have not been playing together long.
Right. They
got a lot of new pieces, all new starting 5. Yeah. All new starting 5. Mulder was a big piece last year.
Yeah.
I remember him.
He played a lot of points off the bench. That's right. That's who I was trying to remember of. He played a lot of minutes, but I couldn't remember if he was a starter or not last year.
So, I mean, you got to be like, oh, crap, they're clicking and they're rolling well.
And it was impressive win against South Dakota.
Yeah.
Because they got out-rebounded by 10. So, however, they didn't turn the ball over. They only had 6 turnovers compared to South Dakota's 16.
Yeah. They're turning people over a lot.
9 steals. So they're playing hard defense. And I'm not surprised by that 9 steals because of the way their defense plays. But they're a good team. And I said it last year. I'm going to keep saying it until I am proven wrong. Jalen Jackson is that dude. I don't care.
Didn't he have like 20 points in one of the games?
He had 19 points, which led all scorers against South Dakota. He only played 23 minutes. So I'm all in on him. He doesn't have to be the scorer every day. Yeah. He hasn't been, but he's just that dude. And I think that when he's on the court, and I guess there's about several players on that team, but when he's on the court, they're a much better team.
They've just got a really good.
They've got a deep rotation.
They've got really good guards. You got Quentin Morton Robinson. You got Rasheed Bello, and you got Jalen Jackson. I mean, it's like you can play them together if you want.
And on any given night, any of them can be the lead scorer.
Yeah, so it's really nice. And you got Mulder down low, just doing the dirty work and working his butt off.
Yep.
So I like this PFW team, and I think that
I like them a lot.
Them being 5-0 is huge. I don't think that a lot of people expected them to come out of this tournament, with 2 wins and a trophy.
Their coach Kaufman, also a fan of the show.
As we're lucky.
He's a
guy
to get attention from him and to have conversations with him. He's
a great guy in the community.
Absolutely,
and I love,
absolutely.
We'll have to try and get on. We'll have to try and get on his show sometime.
Absolutely. Want to talk about the younger brother of PFW?
Younger brother. Yeah, because trains are not as old as mastodons. Is that how how that works?
Exactly. The mastodon ran, or excuse me, the mastodon walked so the trains could choo choo.
That's gonna go on. We're gonna put that on a shirt.
Sign me up.
Purdue went 1-0 this week. They had a win in the Gavitt games over Xavier. But they're number 2 in Ken Palm because Houston moved up.
Well, when you play 2 more games, you can't not like.
It's just, I don't know, math or something.
Yeah.
But Purdue's now number 2 on Ken Palm, but they still are great. They have a record right now, school record, and I think the longest active record, a win streak in non-conference games. They've won 27 straight non-conference games.
That sounds right.
In the regular season.
Right.
But so I think that's going to be tested in Maui. We're going to see if that can keep going.
We'll
talk about Maui later.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
I think that one thing that concerns me about the team, there's not a lot that's concerning about a team this good.
It's like, it concerns me if you want to be great, but like, it's like, these are things that
they need to figure out,
but you're still going to win a lot of games even if you don't.
They're really streaky. They will go on a run, but then they'll, again, not score for several minutes.
Yeah.
They, Colvin and Lawyer both had a couple huge, I think Colvin had a couple huge threes. Lawyer, I think
he went 3 for 3.
Colvin did. Yep. Lawyer might have only had 1 made 3. I don't exactly remember. He didn't shoot well in general.
Yeah.
But Xavier did end the half on a 2 minutes and 22 second scoring drought. That didn't help them in the final outcome.
But Purdue had one of those in there too.
Yeah.
Because they had a big scoring drought, a couple of them.
Yeah. They had several, really. But Heidi he hasn't played. He's played a lot of minutes because he's been playing a lot of scrap time.
Yeah.
But he had a huge oop in transition. It was a 2v1, 2 Purdue going up against 1 Xavier defender. Mm-hmm. And I forget who gave him the pass, but it was a bounce, or it was an oop. It was a bounce pass to the guy that threw the oop to Heidi, and it was Heidi went up, got it, threw it down. I was like, okay, good. That's a great play. Their perimeter defense was super impressive in the second half, or the first half.
Yeah.
They just weren't giving Xavier any space. That obviously helped them take a lead in half and helped result in that 2 minute scoring drought for Xavier.
And I hope you see that a lot with Purdue because, I mean, the teams that they play know that they're not going to be able to get what they want in the paint. You either got to pull Zach Edey out of there somehow, or you've got to do like what Xavier did. They shot a lot of mid-range, and that's how Indiana beat them last year. You had an Edey in drop coverage. You shoot a lot of mid-range.
Yep.
I mean, that's a very low percentage shot. So if you're Purdue, you're like, we're happy with you taking that shot.
Right.
We're going to limit your threes. You're not going to get anything down in the paint. And I think that's what we're going to see from them all year. But Edey is stupid good from the line. 10 of 11 in that game. I mean, normally you see big dudes struggling, but
Shaq.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
Notoriously bad at
I don't know if someone at some point was just like, hey, you're going to get fouled a lot.
Yeah.
Just get good at this and you'll get 10 more points per game.
Yeah.
But I mean, he is super efficient, especially for someone of his size.
I will say there was at one point that Purdue lost a possession off a rebound that Edey went to try and get the rebound, and his just long ass fingers got in the way. He went to get it, and it just
rolled right off
the tip of his finger. And I was like, okay, if Edey's one, it's Purdue ball if he doesn't touch it, because no one had touched it up until that point.
Right.
If his hands were just so gosh darn big, wouldn't have happened. But it was just barely like a millimeter of his fingertip. And that was like, okay, this is just dumb that this happens. Like no other human on earth probably is touching that ball.
Yep.
But no, they're a good team. I do want to stop talking about Colvin's athleticism. Talk about his shooting, because the dude can shoot the ball. Like, he went 3 for 3 from deep.
Yeah.
This game, like we said,
his only shots were from 3.
Yeah.
If he can, they shot the 3 ball well, 46%, which is like way above average.
But that's a lot to do with him, because their starting guards went 2 for 8.
Yeah.
Which
Jones 1 for 3, Lawyer 1 for 4. Braden Smith didn't take one.
Yeah.
But Braden Smith is what, 5'11", 6 foot?
Something like that. He's not very big.
He's got 6 boards. He almost had a triple double the other night.
Yeah. Well, because they're shooting a lot of threes and they're missing a lot of threes.
Well, you got Zach Edey tapping him out, but I mean, he just knows. He just knows where the ball is going, man. He just knows ball.
Yeah.
You want to talk about him? You want to talk about the person you want to talk about? You want to talk about Trey Kaufman-Renn? You're a notorious Trey Kaufman-Renn hater.
I'm not a hater. He's critic. I want more from him.
Okay.
He's an Indiana Mr. Basketball, former the Indiana Mr. Basketball.
4-star guy, high 4-star guy.
He's
I think
talented, but at this point, and this is what people are saying. They just need to figure out how he's going to play alongside Edey, because at this point he's a glue guy. He had like 1 point.
Yep.
Against Xavier.
0 for 2, 1 free throw. I'm
not saying he's the new Ethan Moore. I'm just saying that if that's his role, is to be a glue guy not even that offense, and that on that team, great.
Yeah.
But I think he deserves better, and I want him to go out and ball.
I think it's interesting.
People can stop talking about myself.
Yeah, people, meaning me.
I've had conversations with other people, and I'm very active on the Twitter universe. But I want more from him. That team wants more from him. I think. I don't know.
Well, what's interesting is looking at his stat line. He played 17 minutes, which means he was splitting time, because Gillis had 17, First had 13 minutes, Heidi had 10.
But I think TKR is better than both of them.
Yeah, every other starter. Lawyer had 26 minutes, but everyone else had 30 or above. He had 3 boards, and they were all defensive boards. I don't know if that's because they're trying to have him out of the paint when Edey's working, so that people can't bring the double over, so that they have to bring someone off of the perimeter to double, or what. But I mean, he's got to be doing more. You're right. He's got to be getting more boards, getting more points, getting something, setting people up.
This comes out of love. I love any Indiana Mr. Basketball. I am all in on. I mean, there's a reason I really love Marcus Burton. I'm just.
It's like our show. Like, it covers Indiana or something.
Exactly. Like basketball is everything here.
Yeah.
And I want these guys who have the highest honor in high school basketball in the state of Indiana to show that we're better than that.
Yeah. I think you got to get more out of him, sure. But I think that the Xavier game was a good test, but I think that they can win with like the same margin against better teams, because Xavier is good, but I don't think they're going to be great. They're going to play some great teams next week, starting when this episode comes out.
Yep, Monday night.
We'll talk about that later.
What about Southern Indiana? They moved up
1-1.
They moved up in both KenPom and our power rankings.
Yes, they got 1 win over an NAIA school, Tiffin, but a win's a win. And they lost to LaSalle, and I think LaSalle was supposed to rush them.
Yeah.
Pull it up again, but barely lost by 1. It was, because this was the game where they were down by 4.
Yeah, they hit a buzzer beater 3 to only lose by 1.
Yes, but
Yep.
they were in it.
I mean, there were 17
end.
lead changes
Yeah.
against LaSalle. Like that's a back and forth game.
Yeah. So AJ Smith had a chance to bring it to a 1-point game, but he missed the layup and both his free throws.
Mm-hmm.
So they were down by 1 at 136. LaSalle goes up 75-72. Miss. AJ Smith goes up, misses his shot, misses his free throw. So they're still down. They foul. LaSalle goes up by 5. They hit a 3. LaSalle hits 2 free throws. They hit another 3. So if AJ Smith hits those free throws, man,
Yeah,
like,
it's a different game.
if he gets the bucket and the free throw, like they're up, and it's a completely different game. So
I will say, yeah, I mean, they shot 66% from the free throw.
yeah,
That's not great. They did shoot like 44% from 3.
which we've been saying
They can't
that
shoot.
this team can't shoot.
Yeah, they showed that against Tiffin when they shot 26% from 3.
Yeah, 4-15.
And 10 for 11 from the stripe. So it's like they either hit their free throws or they shoot good from the 3-point line.
Yeah,
They can't have both.
yeah,
And it's you pick your battles. I think in this instance, free throws would have won them the game.
mm-hmm.
They need to own that, and they just need to be a good free throw shooting team.
Yeah. The
They're
interesting,
not going to shoot well from 3.
they got to figure something out, and I think that some people that are trying to bring them along, Jeremiah Hernandez and AJ Smith, they're trying to bring them along, get some wins in there. But I mean, they won by 3 points against Tiffin, and when Southern Indiana was a D2 school, they used to play their conference foes, or they played Tiffin a lot.
They played them a lot.
And so it was a game for USI, but an exhibition for Tiffin because Tiffin was playing up. But it's nice to see that they're still playing each other.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. Little rivalry there.
Yeah. But AJ Smith in that game where they won, he had a key rebound in the last 45 seconds. And they were up 6. And he had a chance for such a clean dunk, but the oop, there was just a bad pass on the alley-oop, so he missed it. But, they ended up winning. LaSalle was 212 in Ken Palm.
Okay.
Southern Indiana's 328.
Okay.
So
Not mad about that.
part of the reason why they moved up is because they lost by 1 to LaSalle. So they played
those expectations, yeah.
But I mean, it was a heartbreaking loss, just losing by 1.
Yeah.
But I think, I don't want to say moral victory, saying you only lost by 1, because LaSalle's not like Michigan or something.
They're a much better team statistically.
Yeah, on paper.
Yeah.
So I think, be happy with that.
Yeah. They did have 20 assists though.
Good.
Which is awesome.
Good.
Passing the rock.
Good team basketball. Let's jump into Valpo, our last school this week. I say that like there's going to be more schools next week. No, our last school this week. Next week, we're going to talk about UIndy.
Our last school to cover. They 333 in Ken Palm, which jump due to a win against Green Bay. And then they did get kind of smoked by Illinois. But they played a great first half.
Dude, if you turned it off after the first half, you went to bed and you're like, wow, man.
Yeah.
Beat Illinois.
And I did turn it off at half. I followed the rest of the game.
Yeah.
But it's so, against Green Bay, Isaiah Stafford, a guy we talked about a lot, Jackson Edwards, they combined for 37 of Valpo's 64. They had 3 of Valpo's 4 3. So they did shoot 22, not them, but the team did shoot 22% from 3. But it's impressive. Like those two really kind of carried the team quite literally against that win against Green Bay.
And do you think they went into that game against Illinois and Roger Powell was like, guys, I used to play here. I can't lose. This is my team. I got to beat them. I got to show them what's what.
Had to have.
I love that for him,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's expected outcome, but interesting thing for me. I found this very fascinating. Here's another I'll give you another free throw, Jaron. Okay, Jackson Edwards for Valpo. He is 6'5".
Yep.
Last year he had 1 block.
Okay.
1 whole season. He has how many this year already?
Seen several.
It is 12.
Is it 12?
It is 12. Well, he had 9. He had 9 after the game against Green Bay, and he had 3.
He was averaging 3 blocks a game.
I believe so.
Something like that.
They played 4 games. Yeah. Pretty good for a guy who averaged 1 block, who had 1 block last year.
Yeah.
But
not bad. Not bad.
Stafford having 8 of 5 or 8 of 15. Pretty good. 3 from 7, like you said.
Yeah.
Just a tough team to play. Terrence Shannon just absolutely popped off in the second half.
Well, those stats were. No, those were you're talking about. I was talking about the Green Bay game, but you're talking about Illinois.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, Stafford, he had 23 points in the first half.
Mm-hmm. And then I think
7 second half.
So as you expected, they figured it out.
He and it's like in Space Jam. He and Terrence Shannon just
swapped.
They swapped powers by touching the ball.
Yeah.
I don't know. But they scored 19 points in the second. After taking a 6-point lead. They're down 6 points going into the half. They scored 19 second half, which is great. But
I mean, again,
Illinois played hardcore defense, and you're going against on paper a much better team.
Yeah, and Brad Stevens. Oh my gosh, Brad Underwood. I'm in the Indiana mind. You say Brad, it's immediately Stevens.
Yeah.
I mean, Underwood is a guy who he had a lot of words you can't say on TV to say to those players. So.
Yeah. But I mean, I also think it shows that that's the experience of a Big Ten team versus a Missouri Valley Conference team. Missouri Valley Conference team big conference teams like that are going to make a better halftime adjustment.
Yeah.
Than the smaller. They've been on a bigger stage for longer.
Right.
So.
And Terrence Shannon is a guy who's gonna get his.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And when he's playing against, lesser competition, he's gonna get his and he's gonna make it happen.
Yeah.
He started hitting threes, and then another Indiana guy, Luke Goody, he hit a couple of threes to get them going, to get celebrating them losing. But
he's an Indiana guy.
Yeah, he's an Indiana guy.
Love for the state. Love for the state.
It was nice to see him hit those threes because he was out like last year with an injury.
Yep. Yeah. So enough about Valpo. Last week, Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week, Ben Hummerkaus.
Almost repeated, dude.
Almost repeated. Who did you pick over him this week?
All right, this week, our Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week this week is Jeremiah Hernandez from Southern Indiana. So the reason why I picked him is he was huge in their first win over Tiffin. So he got their first win.
Yep.
He had 24 points, and he came out to score in the beginning of the game. He went 5. He hit 5 of their first 7. And another reason why I picked him is nothing says Indiana basketball like going 9 for 10 from free throw. He missed 1. I'll give him that 1, but you hit your free throws.
Can't hit them all, but
hitting your free throws is Indiana basketball. So he's my Jimmy Chitwood Player of the Week for the state of basketball. I think what he did was great. My honorable mention was AJ Smith, also for USI. He had a double-double. I mean, he was doing the dirty work. He almost had that dunk on the oop in the end. He had the keyboard in the final minute. But I think that the two of them were just great. But I got to give it to Jeremiah Hernandez.
As the Jimmy Chitwood player.
As the Jimmy Hernandez. Yes.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, we getting close to the end here, but let's look at, we talked about last week. What games do we have coming up this week?
So many.
There's a lot of games this week.
I mean, it's already feast week, so everyone's playing in like an MTE.
Yep.
My favorite tournament, other than the NCAA tournament, is this week, and that's Maui.
Yep.
So there's Maui and the Battle for Atlantis are going on this week. Maui's first, then Atlantis is after.
They're unfortunately not playing in Maui this week.
Yeah, but they're playing on Honolulu because they can't play. Lahaina got hit really hard by those.
But there's going to be a lot of fundraising for Maui, which I love.
Yes, so that'll be really awesome. I'm glad that they're still able to get on the island. It's just not. It just doesn't feel right when they play it, and like they played it in Asheville during COVID, and they played it in Vegas, and it just didn't feel the same. But
the laid back, calm vibes.
You didn't have Big Wave Billy on the call.
yeah.
But
and talk about that game. Actually, I saw it was Fletcher Lawyer was doing an interview.
Yeah,
and he was asked about like, how excited are you to play in Maui or something along those lines, and he goes, "Well, it's a lot better than West Lafayette."
Yeah,
which I think is funny because West Lafayette kind of sucks. But
dude, I mean, Maui is just immaculate vibes.
Yeah,
we got to go someday.
Everything about that tournament is great. Yeah. That game does concern me.
Purdue. So Purdue does have Gonzaga first. Yep. We should get that out of the way.
They're Purdue's 2-point favorites. But I'm not. I know we said in our season preview that if Purdue, fans should probably expect to win, but expect to win the tournament, but don't be deterred if they don't. And the more I've seen Purdue play, is like, okay, they are the Purdue from last year, but better. I don't know that they're going to be able to pull it off. I'm nervous. I want them to make a run because I want to see how good they are.
Yeah.
And I think playing more than just Gonzaga does that. But I think.
Okay. So the first game they play against, so the Maui field is game 1's Tennessee and Syracuse. Game 2's Purdue and Gonzaga. Kansas plays Chaminade, which is the D2 school in Hawaii. They play the third game, and then the fourth game is Marquette and UCLA. So I think if you're talking about teams that can win this, you've got Tennessee, Purdue, Gonzaga, Kansas, and Marquette. I think are the teams that could realistically go in and win this.
Yep.
UCLA maybe, but they're not quite as good as they have been in the past. That first game, Purdue Gonzaga, is going to be very interesting. Like you said, I mean, they're a 2-point favorite. Mm-hmm. We talked last week. We talked about this. This is their, maybe 2 weeks ago. It's like their lowest chance to win.
Yeah.
Lowest projection. But they've got a kid who transferred from Wyoming, Graham Ike. They've got him at the 5 for Gonzaga. And I am honestly not too concerned about him. I think Zach Edey's going to win that battle because we watched Trace Jackson Davis 2 years ago just eat his lunch in the NCAA tournament, and he's been out for a year with an injury. But I think it's going to be tough. I think those guards.
It is the closest spread out of all the games.
Is it?
The only game that doesn't have a spread associated with it is Kansas against Chaminade because they're not even a D1.
Yeah. What kid? His brother played at Gonzaga, Nembhard.
Yeah.
Yes, he transferred there, so I think he's going to be giving Smith, a run for his money.
Yep.
And I think that it's going to be a tough game, but if you lose that game, you've got most likely Syracuse. So if Purdue loses game 1, they're probably playing Syracuse because Syracuse will probably lose to Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then, you should win that game. And then,
I think if they lose, I think they're playing for 5th place. I think that's just at minimum, they're getting 5th place because I don't think they're going to lose to any of the teams that would lose. Because they would more than likely play Syracuse. Then they would more than likely play UCLA. I think they're beating UCLA. So,
well, yeah.
Assuming that they lose.
Mm-hmm.
I derailed you and I apologize.
Yeah, sorry. They would. So I think that they could go, if they lose game 1, I think they're going 2-1.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I think if you're winning game 1, you're probably not going any worse than 2-1,
Yeah.
Because if Purdue wins, they're probably going to play Tennessee. That's going to be a tough one because who's going to stop Dalton Connect? Trey Kaufman-Renn?
That's if he's going to prove me wrong.
First, there's no way
that game.
I just don't see anyone able to match up with him because he's just straight balling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that's probably the one that I'm most worried about, unless they make it to the finals and then they play Kansas and you got Edey versus Hunter Dickinson again, and then you've got just the absolute nasty Kansas team.
Yeah.
Probably. Even Marquette is scary because
their guard plays are so good.
If Purdue plays Marquette in the championship game, like Tyler Kolek is about to just pop off.
He's gonna. Yeah,
I'm not counting out Braden Smith
alive. I think.
I mean, Tyler Kolek is like maybe dark horse player of the year kind of guy, and Braden Smith is not. I mean, he's great,
but he's not Tyler Kolek.
Could be on a Big Ten team, but he's not. He's not the national player of the year contender like Kolek is. So
yeah.
It's going to be an interesting thing. I think 2-1 is a success. 3 is you knocked it out of the 3-0 is you knocked it out of the park. 1-2 is a disappointing tournament.
Yep.
Because I just don't see a way. I mean, I just don't see a way that you could go unless you somehow go lose to Gonzaga. Purdue loses to Gonzaga. Purdue beats Syracuse, and then Purdue plays Marquette. Like that would be the only way that I could see it happening.
Yeah, I don't think.
But I don't think that's happening. Yeah. So very tough week. I mean, and it's back to back days. So it's 3 days in a row.
Yep.
All in Hawaii. First game is at 5 p.m. on Monday, the
20th. Another big game today. Indiana versus Louisville. 2 losers from the first round of the Empire Classic.
Yes.
Louisville played a heck of a game.
Best game they've played in 2 years.
Best game they've played in 2.5, 3 years probably.
But lost by 1 on a last second shot.
Yeah. Quite literally. A fadeaway 2 that was an NBA style shot.
Yeah.
With 0.4 or that resulted in 0.4 seconds being left on the clock.
So Indiana, this is the game we talked about that Indiana wanted to avoid.
Yeah.
You would have almost
only because losing to playing LSU or Louisville is just not a good look.
Yes. So
Louisville's bad,
you
but now
you don't know
scary.
what Louisville's going to do.
Yeah.
Right. If they play the way they played against Texas the rest of the year, then taking a loss to Louisville's not bad. But you don't want to come out of this going 1-1 when the perception was, holy crap, like Louisville doesn't fit into this. Because now it's like looking at what Indiana has done, and they've dropped a bunch and have been struggling early, like we projected. Now it's like, oh, maybe Indiana and Louisville both didn't belong. You get blown out by 20 in the first game.
Yep.
Pac-12 loses by 1.
Yeah.
So now it's
UConn is a much better team than Texas.
Yes.
But Indiana should be a much better team than Louisville.
Yes.
So
on paper, they should win.
Yep.
So now you're in a scary situation of, okay, maybe you lose to Louisville, but it ages, like a fine wine, and Louisville, finishes top half of the ACC or something.
Right.
But the most likely outcome is that Louisville still sucks and you lose to them, and then you have that on your resume and a 20-point loss, which the 20-point loss is nothing. Like that's not going to affect anything.
Yeah.
But you have to win this game if you're Indiana. I think Khalil Ware is going to come back. He didn't hit a 2, but he still played all right. And he's going to have a much easier game because he doesn't have to play Klingon.
Yeah.
And
I think he and Xavier Johnson are going to have their best 2 games of the season.
I hope. They probably need to win the game.
Yeah.
I think Malik Renew just needs to play. Same he has.
Yep.
Mackenzie Mbako, if you ever found, like, if there's ever a time to come alive, it's this game. Like it has to be now.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't have to be now. I mean, you can win the game without him, but let's build some steps here and have this keep rolling. Indiana State plays in, what is it? The Big Dogs. The Big Dogs Classic. So Indiana State has a big week. They go back to back days. Rice, they're favored by 5. Then they play Pepperdine. They're favored by 4. And then they end up
they play Toledo. And they're favored by 1.
Favored by 1. I think that Indiana State can win it. I think that they can go 3-0.
Yeah.
That's like very doable. We haven't seen a ton from this team just because they only played 1 game last week, and then they played didn't they play a non-D1 team, and then they got blown out by Alabama.
Right.
But they were in it for a while.
In it for a lot of the game.
And I don't think Avila played in that game.
He did not.
So you got your full team back. I think you can go into that and feel not like you expect to go 3-0, but I think that I think Indiana State's going to go 3-0 in this.
Yeah.
Any other games other than Tennessee and Syracuse playing Purdue?
Yeah, I think we talked enough about that. So Butler plays Florida Atlantic, which I think they're 3-point dogs.
But it got a lot more interesting.
But I got because Florida Atlantic just lost.
Yes, to Bryant,
Yeah.
who just made Phil Martelli Jr. their full-time head coach.
Yeah. It's so that's going to be interesting. See how that and they lost by like 9 to Bryant.
Yeah.
So it's Florida Atlantic's an interesting team. It's a team I really like, but I think that's going to tell us a lot about that Bulldogs team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be their possibly their. I don't know. They could play A&M or Penn State. That game.
Those are very different.
Yeah,
those games are very different. Like you should expect to probably blow out Penn State, and you should probably expect to be blown out by A&M.
Right. So it's going to be interesting to see what the outcome of that, how the outcome of that Florida Atlantic game kind of dictates the rest of their little invitational that they're playing. I think it's the ESPN events invite or something like that.
Yeah.
I still really like it. I think that team has a lot. The Butler team has a lot of promise. And so I'm going to follow them very closely during that tournament. And it's 2 back-to-back games. I think that it's going to tell us a lot. And then the 2 that I have.
The last one that I want to jump in on is Valpo on the 25th. So is that probably Saturday? Plays Southern. They're 1-point dogs. It's a home game for Valpo. Southern right now is 286 in KenPom, so about 50 points higher. I think that's a good chance for a great win. I think that the way that Valpo's playing, they can pull that off. Yeah. So they've got chance for 2 good wins with playing Western Illinois and Southern. But so those are the games that I'm looking forward to.
No in-state matchups.
Yeah, no in-state matchups.
Our first time this season so far.
Southern Indiana, I'm sorry, but you got to play Duke, unfortunately, at Cameron.
Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, that's all we.
GG's.
You have fun. Have fun with it while you can. Maybe
take in the moment.
Yeah, maybe it
might be the biggest stage you'll ever play on.
Yeah, maybe they are hitting, and remember you can tell everybody that you played in Cameron.
Yep.
But let's see what the other 49 states are doing this upcoming week, or what's been going on this last week.
We talked about Maui and Battle for Atlantis.
Yeah, Battle for Atlantis field is not quite as good as Maui, but I'll be watching that. I mean, I'm not a huge football guy, so like Thanksgiving isn't like my family doesn't sit and watch football, and so I'll probably be tuned in on my phone watching some Atlantis games.
I'm making sure to bring my portable chargers. Thanksgiving's a long day for me. I have two different families to work around, and they're both sides are huge football fans. I'm gonna be. I even bring my iPad with me.
You're gonna be like John Rothstein out here. Like, why are we watching the Lions when we could watch?
Yeah, exactly. So
Purdue play.
I'm gonna make sure that my I've got my iPad charger with me. Bring the iPad.
Yeah.
Prop it up. Sit in the corner. Eat my turkey. Watch Battle for Atlantis.
The St. John's lost to Michigan.
Are they good? Are they good again? Did they win it?
I don't know. They were up.
I'll pull up that score.
So they
did beat Utah by 9.
Okay, but they lost to Michigan, and like Michigan was looking great, and then all of a sudden they lose to Long Beach State, just like out of nowhere.
Yeah,
and like it wasn't even super close.
But does that mean that DFW is better than Michigan? Think about the transitive property, right? Okay. DFW beat DePaul.
Okay.
DePaul beat Long Beach State.
They almost beat Long Beach. They lost by like less. Long Beach State beat Michigan, I think, by more than.
Yeah, so Long Beach State beat DePaul by 4.
Yeah, but they beat Michigan by like 12.
Long Beach State beat Michigan by 8.
Okay, so based on that, yes.
Yeah.
They are.
Yeah.
Purdue Fort Wayne is better than Michigan.
Math checks out.
DePaul lost by fewer points to Long Beach State than Michigan did. So yeah, they're better than Michigan. Arkansas. So this is interesting. Purdue played that exhibition against Arkansas.
Yep.
The fundraiser for Maui, right?
Yep. Yeah.
So Purdue loses to that Arkansas team in overtime, But then that Arkansas team, top 14, is number 14. They lose to UNC Greensboro just at home. Odd.
Yeah, you don't expect it.
I mean, that doesn't mean anything. Like, that isn't a game that makes you go, what does this mean for Purdue? Because it doesn't mean anything. But
right.
Arkansas, that's notable. JMU, still undefeated. Huge. Dayton, I think, is a team to keep your eye on if you're looking for like what mid-major team is going to be good.
Yep.
I think that they're going to be good in the A10.
To be expected. Dayton's always they're perennially they're a quality mid-major.
Yes. And I feel sad that they lost that year to COVID, because when they had Obi Toppin, an Indiana Pacer now. But
Obi Toppin be hooping.
Yeah. And it's sad that he didn't get to that tournament, but they're right now, when we're filming this, they're down 8.5 to Houston, which is, it's a really good Houston team.
Yeah.
FAU, like we said, lost to Bryant by 1. Oh, they lost by 1. That sucks.
Yeah.
And then Maryland is 1-3. And they only scored 15 points in the first half against Villanova.
Projected top, number 4.
It was like Purdue, Michigan State, Maryland.
Yeah.
It's like what everyone thought.
Depending on who some people might have had Indiana at 3, Maryland at 4, kind of, but I think the consensus was Maryland.
The thing I think 3, is like Indiana was like anywhere from like 3 to 8.
Yeah.
But Maryland was like 3 or 4.
Consistently, yeah. That's true.
That's weird.
Yeah. It's only scoring 15 points in the first half to that was a good team, but if you're gonna try and make a run at the Big Ten, gotta do.
Yeah. Especially because you have, what's his name? Jameer Young.
Yep.
Their point guard is supposed to be, everyone is talking about him like he's the truth.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sucks.
So, well,
I think it's funny, but
I'm not mad about it.
The way Indiana's playing, I think
helps us.
They should be happy that Maryland is also not playing well. They should be happy that they at least only have 1 loss while Maryland has 3.
Yep.
But that's all that's really all I paid attention to this last week, and all that I'm looking forward to is, Maui, Battle for Atlantis, and keeping an eye on the tournaments going on this week. Feast week is a great time.
Love it.
All right. That about does it. So I think make sure to follow us on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe,
ring the bell to turn on notifications. That way you see every time we post a short, which we're going to be doing at least twice a week.
Mm-hmm.
And then our weekly video episode every Monday. And
follow us on Spotify. Give us 5 stars.
If you enjoy the show.
Yeah.
No pressure otherwise, but it goes a long way. But
helps us out a lot.
Does help us out a lot. The clock is showing quadruple zeros. So it's time for us to get out of here. Thanks for checking in the State of Basketball podcast. And remember, in 49 states,
it's just basketball.